Welcome to the Yoga Nation, the Spirit of Gratitude podcast on the One Integration platform. Hello, friends. My name is Yogesh Patel, and this podcast focuses on bullying, self-awareness, and our inner spirit, inviting high-profile guests to share their experiences on these relevant topics. And citizens of Yoga Nation, I am so excited that in these next two episodes, we will be recapping my favorite reels from each episode guest as a way to help you understand why I believe that these particular reel messages speak to me. And at the same time, you will also be able to get to know me a little bit more through my interpretation and through my analysis of each of these reels. But more importantly, getting to know me, it's helping you as the audience member understand my vulnerabilities, what makes me tick, some of the things that really chap my hide in terms of some strong opinions that I have. So I encourage all of the citizens and beyond to take these next two episodes, walk with me, so that, again, in the effort that these reels may help inspire, may educate, may be entertaining and reflecting. That's what it is. That's what these next two episodes will be. So thank you. I think the good lead-in is just taking a step back, going beyond just going through these reels is why I'm so passionate about this, right? And it's not just the fact that, my daughter's my inspiration. I myself am my inspiration in terms of the gratitude I have every day when I wake up in the morning, being able to see clearly. Back in 2021, I had major eye surgery in the left eye alone. With having both cataract and glaucoma surgery, it was an hour-and-a-half procedure, very risky based on the allergies that had affected me since I was 15. And so, with that, at the Mayo Clinic, wonderful doctors who helped heal me to where I'm actually seeing 2015 here, which has never been that since I was a teenager. This eye still has some work to do. It's at 2080. I'm not sure if it'll get this eyesight back, but beyond that, I am so grateful. My sense of gratitude extends every day as I'm able to see clear lines on the horizon. In fact, the day after surgery on December, I think 13th or whatnot, surgery was on the 12th. I come back the next day for my follow-up appointment, and just driving through Scottsdale to the Mayo Clinic off of Shea Boulevard, I happened to see for the very first time clear lines of the mountains. And beyond that, what was behind the shadows, because it was dark. It was my OMG moment, my time to really reflect and say, wow, I can finally see. I mean, I had been able to see this clearly for nearly 20 years. And for me to see what I was able to see, the emotion, because we all have health struggles. Some mental, some physical. We're challenged with, whatever we are, whatever ails us, and for me, that was my moment of gratitude, saying, of all the adversity that I experienced, right, in terms of having my daughters be my co-pilot when I'm driving, to say, hey, Rhea, make sure that I don't, God forbid, bump into anything. This was my way to simply say, I've come a long way. The adversity, as much as it helped develop and shape Rhea's character in terms of her resiliency and resolve, it's the same thing even for me as an adult. That's why I'm so passionate about the subject. That's why I want to bring, these great minds to the table to help them talk about their experiences with gratitude, with bullying, self-awareness, their inner spirit, to help them become the person they are today, and so that energy that can rub off on others. That's why I'm doing this, and that's why it's so powerful for me. The tears come from just the sacrifice, not only for me, but of the, with Ami and the girls having these, struggle, even my parents. Living in California, it was, I never wanted to see my parents see me in that condition, because they worry. And normally when parents grow old, you tend to worry about them. They worried about me. No, but it was only until after surgery and moving to Arizona that I guess the dryness of the climate really helped heal me. And that's what I am supremely grateful for. What's changed in me, I don't know if I can explain that, but I could give you an example. Every episode, when I record, there's always something that the guest says that just gets that fuzziness in the heart going. I can't explain it, but it is my sense of gratitude that they're able to share that message. And if I'm able to experience that warm and fuzzy feeling in the heart, hopefully the citizens of Yoga Nation can feel some of that as well. And it gets them to be empowered to what adversity they're going through. I've always likened to believe that even in my worst moments, I remember just the simple act of walking was a metaphor for me to get better every day. And when you walk, you normally don't walk backwards, you always walk forward, one step at a time to get to where you need to go. Now that I've wiped my tears, right, I can actually, and being vulnerable so that people can know a little bit about where my heart is, and trying to get others to overcome their adversity, whatever challenges they have in life. And so what I would like to do now is bring up my first clip with Chef Ron. And Chef Ron says the New York Times is Arizona's #1 celebrity chef. He's done catering events for Super Bowl champions, top-rated music stars, and so he was my very first guest on the show. And what I like to do is share my my best reel on that. So now what I want the citizens to understand and know is my favorite reel from Chef Ron from episode 1.
I'm always humble when somebody gives me an opportunity. I don't take it for granted. I've learned not to take it for granted, and I just know just to be in the moment, because it may not be there forever. Just be locked in and be there in the moment and understand that just happened. That's what I've learned to do, that just happened, like I did that. And like I said, I'm my biggest encourager. So I'm constantly talking to myself on a second by second basis about who I am. And there's a difference of being confident and cocky, but you can be confident and humble at the same time. I understand that tomorrow's not promised, because I had nothing at one point. I had nothing, and I started with zero, and I prayed and I asked for what I asked for, and then I put in the work, and now it's here.
So the reason why I like this episode quite a bit is he goes into several themes, but the thing that struck to me is two notes. Number one is he is his own biggest encourager. That's something I'm still learning. I tend to be the person that I am my own worst critic. Sometimes it's an asset, but more than not, it's more of a liability, because it's always the angel and the devil that you have on your shoulder. Who do you listen to more? Do you listen more to the devilish side, the person that wants to bring you down, or do you listen to the angel that pumps you up, gives you encouragement? I don't do enough of the angelic thing more than I listen to the devilish inside of me. A lot of that, I think, is just my upbringing. Not to say there was anything bad or negative, but it's just the way that I've grown up to be that way, sometimes to a detriment to my own success, but that's something I'm constantly learning, how to better myself. And also, I think the second part that he mentioned was at the very end, where he mentioned that he prays, he asks for what he asks for, and then he puts in the effort. And so to me, a lot of that comes to the manifestation of realizing and dreaming, just that dream big moment. I mean, who would have thought that 20 episodes in, I would have an NFL legend, the chief correspondent for ABC, chief Washington correspondent for ABC News, Matthew Earl Jones. Are you kidding me? I mean, these are the creme de la creme of individuals, and having them share their wisdom and perspective on these topics that I bring up is just very powerful. And I'm thankful that Chef Ron was the first. And I'll just say episode 2, was thankful to have Luke Russert, Emmy Award-winning journalist and best-selling author. His father, if for those my generation and older may have known and seen his father, Luke Tim Russert from Meet the Press, unfortunately, he passed away, and it took some time for the son Luke to really understand what his role in society was after losing his very famous father, who had cast a long shadow. And so this next clip really tugs at me at the heart, and you'll understand why.
If you're willing to take that journey inside. And that's something I really encourage people to do. I mean, some folks, they really want to do that self-discovery and that self-examination, almost a diagnostic test on themselves, and go into the different layers of their being. But oftentimes they're afraid to start, and oftentimes it's awkward, and oftentimes it's uncomfortable. So once you started to pull back those layers a little bit, you get to a feeling of feeling more whole. So anything you can do to help people discover that is a good thing.
Yeah, such a great clip. It reminds me of why I created this podcast, is that self-awareness. And that self-awareness only comes when you, as Luke had mentioned, you take a diagnostic of yourself. And to me, the journey is also inward, but it's also outward in the sense of how you perceive your relationships, whether it's your family, friends, neighbors, your community, so that it's in the effort of being observant. And what it comes down to, I believe, are these little aha moments that give you that moment of clarity in terms of things that you're trying to untangle. And I think that's what that whole self journey that he describes, that's important to me, because I'm always, at least especially on vacations or when I meditate, it's those little moments of clarity that I get once I have that moment of self-discovery and that self-reflection. And again, what Luke speaks to is that theme of self-awareness. All right, queuing up episode 3. This is really cool. I had a chance to meet the ex-captain of the USS Constellation and the captain of the Navy Blue Angels. But they're really not called captains; they're called bosses. The boss is the flight leader that is at the front of the 6-wing man rotation. And so had Boss Gilrude on the podcast as episode 3. And let's hear what he has to say and why I believe this was my favorite reel from his.
I've never really heard the term bullying. We were just growing up in those times, and part of your growing up was to have some older kids give you a little guidance, which at times could be a bit severe. And so that little school we had, when I was 6 years old as a first grader, well, the games we played and all were done with people all the way through the age of 14 who were 8th graders. And so there were some tough times when you were little, going through there. But as far as the girls go, there were only 4 of us in my class, and 3 girls and me. So I basically finished last at everything for 8 years, and they beat me up for the first 3. But after that, I managed to take care of myself.
Getting beat up by girls. I'm kidding there, Boss Gilrude, but I think for me, this speaks to the generational, I'm not going to say gap, but every generation has had their moments of anxiety and, in this case, bullying. And as Mr. Rude had eloquently said, there was no bullying during his time. He was as part of growing up. And I think where it becomes important now is that there's 57.6 million people that suffer from some sort of mental health illness. And again, just going back to my generation or my parents' generation, there was always that stress and anxiety, no different than now. But I believe that with technology, we're able to open up more. We're able to express our feelings without being judged. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've come from at least this episode of Boss Rude. And now episode 4. This was really grateful to have the CEO of the Tourette's Association of America, Amanda Talty, on the podcast. I had a chance to meet her when Riani and I went to San Antonio as she was going to be anointed as a youth ambassador. So I had a chance to really get to know Amanda as she'd just taken over the helm of the Tourette's Association of America. And what's really special is that the association themselves wanted to collaborate with me on the messaging that I would be asking Amanda. And I was really grateful that on 2 of the reels that were released, they got over 25,000 views on Instagram. So really grateful that Amanda and team were able to make it happen. And this is my favorite reel from Amanda Talty.
Education combats ignorance all the time. Of course, people have to be open to learning, which is its own challenge. Right? Getting people to see the world through a different lens can, in and of itself, be challenging. But I do think education is the biggest pathway to understanding. And then, unfortunately, I think really building that resilience within yourself as an individual dealing with a neurodiverse condition like TS. Unfortunately, that's part of it too. You really just have to understand that you cannot control other people and what they think and how they behave, and really build that Teflon skin to navigate it and find your allies.
Yeah, and there's several themes here that I think are spot on, but to me, I think what Amanda talks about is central to that of communication. Again, having the courage and ability to speak about your condition so that there is compassion, there's empathy, there's kindness in terms of what a neurodivergent individual is going through, so that they become more resilient, they become more confident in themselves. And as I think, but more importantly, it's also giving them the benefit of the doubt. Again, you don't know really what's going on with a person. So for me, I try to be kind to everyone. I want to say kind, but just being nice, smiling, because you don't know what they're going through. I mean, no one knew the 30 years I was going through with my eye issues. So I tend to just err on the side of people are good-natured, and if you project that energy out to the world, it's going to come back and it's going to multiply. That's why I thought Amanda's reel speaks volumes in terms of our ability to be kind to one another through education. And episode 5 was my first international guest. She is Amy Truesdale, Paralympian in the 2024 Olympics in Paris. She had won the gold medal in Taekwondo, and her different ability, I'm not going to say disability here, is that she had a left numb, I believe that's what it's called, where she didn't have the forearm down from her left side. But I mean, this girl's a badass. I would not want to fight her on the street. And she's amazing in terms of the resiliency. She's been at it for over decades, just real grit. And this is why I liked her episode the most.
I think sometimes when you meet someone who's quite inspiring or who's done something, I've seen it with kids before, they're quite shy and they think, oh, that's a silly question, I won't ask. And I'd encourage them to ask the question, because for me, like, success leaves clues. So if you're speaking to someone successful, they're giving you the answer of how they've done it, and that's only going to help you further. So just get as much information as you can, just use people, because there could be something very small that somebody tells you and you think, oh, I can incorporate that in my life, and that might really fuel yourself or your performance. Just get advice from whoever you can.
Yeah, getting advice for whoever you can. People are willing to help you in this world that I've come to know. Success leaves clues. If there's something that you aspire to be, go out and find those people that are really good at it, and ask the question. I mean, the worst thing that they can say is no. Fine, you move on to the next. But it just speaks to the goodness in humanity, where if someone asks you a question, most likely they will respond and answer. They, perhaps maybe not to the level of detail because they may not have the time, but people are good, and that's something that I've come away, with, especially with guests like Amy, who's got, tremendous struggles in life. But that's just my perception. I'm sure she doesn't think that. But success leaves clues. And my next guest is one of the NFL legends in our time. He's Kansas City Chiefs all-time leading scorer, has been inducted in the Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame. He is Mr. Nick Lowry. And wow, I mean, talk about a very smart individual on and off the field. Being in his presence, you become uplifted based on what he shares. And so this was my uplifting moment when he talks about gratitude.
Every day, multiple times, I talked to someone about gratitude and how it is the magical potion and elixir for all of us as we go through life to stay in a good place and to stimulate the oxytocin and all the other great dopamine-like chemicals that help us feel good about life. It's a contribution, I think, to everybody's day to remember and focus on and be grateful for the things they do have in life.
And I still don't know what elixir means, but maybe someone, maybe a citizen can help educate me on that. But again, what Nick talks about is just what this podcast really is about, is just being grateful for the things and the gifts that you have in life, and make sure that, to me, you don't take advantage of that. The chemicals that go inside of you when you are grateful, it also, again, speaks to the energy you project to the world, which I think is an important message, especially today. I'm not going to say, and it goes back to my philosophy when I did that introductory video out in the Tucson desert, is there's not enough wisdom on social media. Being grateful, having that sense of gratitude can help a person overcome a degree of adversity that they're facing. And, for me, that sense of gratitude when I was going through my own eye issues and struggles, along with Rani and her Tourette's, is every night we would all gather around, light a diya, which is like a little flame in terms of our temple, and no matter how crappy the day was and health-wise, we'd always go around, each of us, me, my wife, and my two daughters, and talk about the things we were grateful for. And it could have been just, having, lunch with them, or something that Ami had made that was, wonderfully, prepared. So it's those little things that we go through our struggles in life, there's always something to have gratitude towards every day. And that's part of the healing process. And I believe that was a strong reason why that spirit of gratefulness and gratitude helped me heal with the eyes and help Rhea become better with her tics and Tourette's. And a little primer for episode 7, Jeff McKinney, he is the CEO and founder of a new social media company called Ontegration, which is the Netflix of purpose. This social media platform aims to eliminate the algorithms that could impede, or I would say impede, because the progress that a message is trying to be delivered out in the ethers of the internet. And so with Jeff, he's created this new social media platform where he describes in short detail what it is, and I will have everyone take a listen.
I would say to those of us out there that are facing this inside of the corporate workspace, that you're not alone. There's thousands, if not millions of people, and they don't all look alike, that are undergoing and suffering for various different reasons in toxic environments. And so Ontegration is a place for you to come and get outside of the algorithm and make sure that you have the right set of resources to support your overall well-being. Not every place is meant for you, but you are meant to succeed. And so we want to make sure that you have not only those resources, but you also have a community and a network that will help align and identify purpose and find those gifts and highlight those and plug you into where they're going to be appreciated and where they're going to be served.
Yeah, the catalyst for how Jeff created Ontegration was the workplace bullying he experienced at his previous company. And for him, his main ethos is people are suffering in silence. They don't need to suffer in silence. Again, we've got an epidemic here in the country where mental health is really preventing people from becoming the best version of themselves. And I believe with Ontegration, it helps build and foster that community that you're not alone in your struggles. And so I would encourage you, the citizens, and even beyond, just to explore what Ontegration has to offer, as they do provide these rich set of resources that can help a person be comfortable with who they are to be the best version of themselves. And that's why I think this episode, this reel especially, speaks to me, just because I want to help in whatever method I can. And I think with having Jeff on board, it helps multiply that message to many other people. And now we go to episode 8, Jonathan Karl. He is ABC News' chief Washington correspondent, and he anchored the election coverage with David Muir and the rest of the election team at ABC News. I was able to spend some time with Jonathan when he was at the Tucson Festival of Books back in March of this year. I happened to be a volunteer transport, so I was able to get to know him a little bit more in that day and a half, where I was able to pick him from the airport, bring him to the hotel, bring him to the venue. Next morning we had breakfast, and so it was just phenomenal. Again, this person has achieved the pinnacle of success when it comes to journalism, having covered 5 different presidents. Just a very, I guess, I don't know, humble is the wrong word. You'll have to experience it for yourself when you go back, listen to this reel, listen to the other reels, and even maybe his episode podcast. But this is something that was my biggest takeaway from this reel.
The whole story of what I've covered has hopefully helped me strive to become a better person. I did 4 trips to Sudan in the 2004-2005 time frame. This is when the genocide in Darfur really was underway, and you can't see that and talk to these people that are suffering. So you feel real responsibility when you're in a situation like that to tell those stories. It's like you're there. And these are people whose stories are not being told. And frankly, it can be a little bit of a challenge. I had to fight in a good way, but I had to really argue forcefully the network should expend the money and the resources and the time. So you feel a real responsibility when you get the story, and then you really feel a responsibility to tell it and tell it effectively.
On so many levels, this speaks to me. Number one is the fact that conceptually you stick your neck out for something that you wholeheartedly believe in. How many people can do that today? Whether they will achieve that success or not, whether they'll be able to do it or not. And so for him to actually fight with the network executives, and I think on the episode itself, he talks about the late Peter Jennings, on his deathbed, pleading to the ABC executives to spend the money for Jonathan to go to Sudan 4 times to tell this story. Again, the story that has been untold, that needed to be shared to the world, about the suffering and the plight of these individuals that, again, really no harm of their own led to this situation. And so it's not easy. And, I guess bringing it back down to an everyday level is, how do you stick up to a bullied friend? Again, I think what he did was, Jonathan rightfully, he saw a situation that he thought he could improve upon. He got his way through a lot of I wouldn't say convincing, but just sharing his heart and passion for the subject. And going back to these ideas of bullying is to stand up to a bullied friend, sticking your neck out to one another to help another individual. That to me is the key here. This next guest brings a smile to my face. She's actually my first guest that been trying to attract the younger audience, and she helped fulfill that. Her name is Nicole Talbot. She's an actress and a singer and transgender. This kid's going to be making it into Broadway pretty soon. Her goal and aspirations is to be on Wicked. And again, through manifestations and what she believes in herself, she'll be able to do it. And this reel, I think, speaks to society's interpretation of what being a transgender means.
The biggest thing is the majority of people that I have met that have not supported me initially had never met someone like me. Their only awareness of transgender people and their lives was through what was happening on their TV screens and what was happening in the news. But when they actually met me and had conversations with me, they realized I was just like their daughters, like their granddaughters, like their nieces. And that happened here in Massachusetts when I helped pass and protect legislation protecting transgender people in public accommodations. And people had never met someone like me, and they were like, oh wait, you remind me of my daughter who is in middle school and wants to perform on stage and just be who she is, like she's just everyone else.
Yeah, a lot of maturity coming from this 20-year-old. A beautiful person, a beautiful soul. Again, kind of going back to what we hear in the news today, the Leah Thomases, that's not her, and that will never be her, because she is providing value to society based on the joy she brings to others. And so I think for me, it's like I'm not around too many transgender people, but again, this helps kind of lessen that hate, I guess I want to say, and that again, you judge a person without really understanding who they are. And Nicole opens up on this episode, and that's why this reel is very powerful. And this could be viewed as a strong opinion or not, but in terms of the Leah Thomas situation, I'm a firm believer that let like-minded athletes compete with one another. And episode 10, Danny Bader. He is an individual that was electrocuted, was clinically dead for 7 minutes, came back to life. And he talks about in this next reel what he experienced in those 7 minutes. Really powerful. I mean, he's now an inspirational speaker. He travels all around the country giving workshops and seminars to the likes of Merck and Marriott and other key brands to help them realize that what it's like to come back to life and be the best version of yourself. And this is Danny Bader.
When the electricity hit me, I had an absolute surge. I felt that surge. I had an absolute calm and an absolute peace. I just felt my soul, my spirit just leave my body. It was just as if a part of me, an essence of me, just was pulled away from the physical scene. I saw it briefly and then I was gone. I didn't hover over my body or anything like that. And then I was joined with what I believe to be the energy, the source of love, God. People may have another name for it. It's just that bigger thing than us. And I reflected on my life very, very quickly. And then I asked this energy, this source, and it wasn't physical. It wasn't an old man with a gray beard sitting in a big stone chair. It was just this connection and this cosmic communication. I said to God, because I felt like I had a choice to stay or come back. And I said, what about my mom? And what about Lisa, who was my girlfriend then and my wife now of 31 years? And as soon as I expressed that love and concern for them, then I was back in my body. Powerful experience for sure.
Yeah, how many people get a chance to come back to life? Very rarely. And in this fleeting moment that we call life, whether we've lived a good life, a long life, it all comes down to how fragile life is. I think what speaks to me with what Danny had mentioned was that ability to surrender, to not tense up, to speak to this unphysical form about his loved ones, and that gave him the opportunity to come back to life, to be a better version of himself, and how that energy that he's projected on this reel and on the episode, boy, is it really powerful. I mean, it makes you stand and pause to say, okay, what am I worried about? Why am I worried about this little thing? There's more to life than just bickering and screaming. Let's love one another. Let faith carry us through to be that kind-hearted person that we all are deep inside. That, to me, is the power of what Danny mentioned. Well, I hope you've enjoyed these first 10 episode reels of what I thought was most impactful for me and the value that I took out of it. Again, hope it got some value to you. And I always tell people that if there's a message within any of these 10 segments, or even with what I shared, that can help inspire, educate, provide reflection to another individual, please share this episode to them, where it's all about how we learn together and how we grow as a society. Join me next week as I conclude the second half of the next 10 episodes and the value that I've received. Thanks for listening. See you next week.